Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here with Honorable Minister Elvis Afriyie Ankrah in Ghana. Good afternoon, Honorable.
Good afternoon.
The first question I had for you was, most people want to know, what is the role of a Minister of State, or your role specifically in Ghana?
Okay, the role of a Minister of State, I'll just give you an example of what I did this morning.
Okay.
I just represented the President at an international conference where he was supposed to be the guest of honor. But because he's out of the country, I represented him.
Okay.
And so I do that often. I represent him both locally and internationally. Recently, I represented him in Guinea. I've represented him at various functions.
Okay.
Number two, the presidency is the office that coordinates all the activities of governments. And so we all work through the chief of staff. And so as ministers in the president's office, we play various supportive roles for various sector ministries, sometimes directly for the president or the chief of staff, or to augment other special government projects in various sector ministries.
Oh, okay. Wow. Sounds very interesting. So is that the same as Secretary of State?
No, it's not. No.
Oh, it's not.
Secretary of State in U.S. will be the foreign minister. So the foreign minister he does international relations and all that. So that's different. But the minister of state, we have various sector ministers: Minister of Agri, Minister of Education, Minister of Health.
Yeah.
They have specific sectorial roles.
Okay.
We are more like midfield players. So at any given time, you can be given an assignment that covers health, specific. You do that assignment, then you withdraw. At another time, you can be given an assignment that covers education.
Okay.
You do that assignment, then you withdraw. So today, for instance, what I did, I represented the president at a forum that was on environment, science, and technology. It's an international conference, ComSat.
Okay.
So the role depends on a need and what the presidency wants to do at a particular time.
Okay. Very, very interesting. So another question for you which was related to the flood disasters that we had in June. The Ghanaian Canadian Association wanted to know more about what really happened since we were not here in Ghana. We wanted to know what was the main cause of the flooding in Ghana. What do you think caused that?
Well, first of all, let me use this opportunity to commend the Ghanaian Canadian community. So that they donated $25,000 through the Christian Council to the flood victims, and I think it's very commendable. If we had all other Ghanaians in the diaspora donating that much, I think it would have gone a long way. So they deserve special commendation. Having said that, the floods have been caused by several factors. First of all, you have a situation of rapid urbanization. A few years ago, barely 10 years ago, if you look at the population of Accra, I used to be in local government, so at least I understand that. And you look at Accra today, Accra has extended to Kaswa. Now you can't tell the difference between Accra and Kaswa. You can't tell the difference between Accra and even Dodoa. And it's going on all the way to Pram Pram. And so the population increases by the day. And over the years, there hasn't been commensurate infrastructure to deal with that higher influx. So that is the first thing. It's a challenge of rapid urbanization. Number two, it's also a question of human behavior. Because more often than not, if you look at the lagoon, the Kole Lagoon, if you look at the sources and where it flows from, and the various tributaries, you realize that it is the tributaries that are choked. And more often than not, you can tell that it is human beings who put in human waste, rubber, so many things. And it has gone on for a very long time. For example, you heard about the demolition of structures at Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right.
What had happened was that as people migrated from various parts of the country, they settled at Sodom and Gomorrah, and they filled part of the lagoon with sawdust. So they built houses on the sawdust, so the water couldn't flow. And at any time when government or the city authorities attempted to go and remove them, then there was an outcry. These are poor people who are coming to eke out a living. What are you going to do to them when you move them? Where would they go? Where would they sleep? And it's been going on and on. But when the floods came, the government had to take a very bold step to move them. And the houses were demolished. Okay. And the excavation that was done, if you see the quantum of sawdust that had been heaped into the lagoon, it's no joke. It was no joke. So, and these are some of the factors that, you know.
Okay. So was this the biggest flood we've seen? Because when I was here back in the 90s, I remember a big one that happened, but it wasn't to this extent where...
Well, it's more because of the effects, you know. Okay. In this particular case, yes, there's been some heavy floods, but most of them, there's been destruction of buildings and all that. In this particular case, it was because of the human lives that were lost at the GCAO filling station, you know, which per the preliminary investigative report was because somebody was smoking a cigarette and then dumped it into the water, which had been contaminated with fuel, and then it caught fire. Wow. And so that is what led to unfortunate loss of lives.
I see. So do you have an idea if government is putting any plans in place right now to prevent something like this again?
Absolutely. In short to medium terms, a lot has been done already. Okay. If you heard recently, a company called Engineers and Planners, that's owned by the president's brother. Okay. They went and desilted the lagoon, and that's why recently, when we've had very heavy downpours, we haven't had of floods, because the downpours we've had since that flood, some of them have been heavier than the flood, yes. But because the lagoon has been drained, so the channel has been created so that the water is able to flow. So that's a short-term measure. So at least you can be sure that when it rains, the water will have a passage to flow into the sea, because that has been the major problem. I talked about Sodom and Gomorrah, but beyond Sodom and Gomorrah, when the lagoon was being dredged, we found vehicles, fridges, anything at all. I mean, trucks, tires, yes, and huge quantities of debris, sand. I mean, over about 8 to 10 meters deep. And you needed special equipment and people with special skills, because many times they tried to do it and dredging equipment themselves sank. And so that's why engineers and planners had to come in with their special skills, and they were able to dredge, you know, a greater portion of the lagoon, and so the water can flow. Now, in the medium to long term, there are discussions going on to do a major redevelopment of the entire drainage system. There's one by an American company, Conti. The negotiations were going on. They got to the financials, and that is where they need to sort it now. But those details, I think the mayor and the Ministry of Finance, they can give further details about that.
For those of us back home, what type of expertise do you think are needed to come back and help with this flood situation? Like, are they looking for experts to come in to help? Because you mentioned they're already working on it. There's short-term and long-term measures. But is the government looking for people with some sort of skills set that they can tap into over here in Ghana?
I think, first of all, through the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, and the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing, there's a drainage master plan, you know, for Accra. And then, as I said, there are private sector entities that are also talking to government and the various, the mayor of the assembly, for instance, to look at how to fund it. So I would say that that is the way to look at it. So that if, for instance, any company comes into the system and they now want to implement their plans, then they will look at the list, the stock of expertise available and where the deficiencies are, and then they will be able to now maybe ask or advertise for people to come on board. So I think that would be a more strategic approach to deal with the issue. So yes, people in the diaspora should be on the lookout. And usually these things, when they are about to happen, they are advertised internationally. It's no longer a local thing. So should be on the lookout when the time comes and those entities require some specific skills, then they will put it out there and then people can apply. You know, we are now in a globally competitive world, so yeah.
Okay. So for the Ghanaian Canadian Association, I mean, this is our first time actually raising this amount of money to help Ghana, and we plan to do other projects in the country. Do you have any advice for them for future references? Because this money that we raised, we had a debate about how do we send it. Do we go directly to the hospitals? Do we use the government agencies, or just find a reputable organization? Which is why we came to the conclusion that Christian Council would be the right group to use. But for future, I don't want to say disasters, but for future purposes, what advice do you have for them if they want to bring money into the country?
Oh, there are a number of courses that one can support, and I think it will be a bit presumptive on my part to try to suggest that, because it's broad range. We have the Gambaga, which is camp. We have children's homes. We have children with the special schools. We have orphanages. We have leprosariums. We have even some of our hospitals, the government hospitals, children who are born premature, they need incubators. So it's really broad, and I believe that yes, Ghanaians in the diaspora, they may have been away for a long time, but somehow they are also in touch with what's going on. They read, they follow what is going on the net. They have relatives, so I think that you should. I would rather encourage them and to continue, but it will be presumptive for me to prescribe what they should do in a particular. I think the important thing is the compassion. Once the compassion is there and the will is there, there are more than enough courses to support.
Well, I heard there's an agency the government put together specifically for floods. I forgot the acronym, the name for it. Is it NAD?
The government did not put it specifically together for floods. We already have the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO.
Yes.
And so that's a government agency that intervenes in times of disaster, any natural
type of disaster.
Yeah. So it's not just for floods.
So
it's an institution which is there that offers somebody that's been doing a good job. So again, that is also one area to look at.
That's good for us, because we never knew about that one. Yeah. So we could have actually also sent money to NADMO.
Yeah. To do equipment. Could be in cash or in kind. So anytime there's any disaster anywhere in Ghana, they are the first. They were involved in the rescue operations with speedboats. They collaborate with the military and other security services, and then they provide blankets, food, beddings, and plastic bowls, a whole lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a disaster relief organization. You can search NADMO. Yeah, NADMO. Yeah.
It would be good for the Ghanaians back home watching this to know all this. Yeah, we had a very tough time deciding what to do.
NADMO has been doing a lot over the years.
Okay, I see. That's good. So my last question, which is off topic from the flood, is just business related. I have a lot of young Ghanaians back home, friends that want to do business in Ghana. Majority of them are discouraged by things like maybe the light off and stuff like that, or maybe just they say the hardship in Ghana, they don't want to come do business here. What advice do you have for young entrepreneurs in Canada that want to do something in Ghana?
First of all, I think that it's important for them to do a little bit of research, and then also to have a focus. And thirdly, if possible, to have local partners, because you're going to deal with the terrain, which you probably don't understand. I know that people have had their fingers bent,
A lot of people,
you come and maybe, but there are still, I can tell you, there are still very honest, genuine, sincere people. But I think the key thing is to determine what it is you want to do. My little experience tells me that more often than not, people come with a lot of assumptions, where maybe they may have good intentions, but they have not researched properly what it is that they want to do, and the potential impact, and how there must be some research.
Of course.
I think it's key.
Okay.
It's very, very important, before you take the step, you do the due diligence.
Right.
And then you can, and then also, again, coming from a family where 70% of the family members are in the diaspora.
Okay.
I always advise that, for instance, it's good that you've come. You're going to be here for 3 weeks.
Yes.
I'm sure you will learn a lot. You see a lot.
Already,
Now, imagine if you had packed your bags and decided that, look, I'm coming back to Ghana. I'm coming to set up a radio station or a TV station, a newspaper, and you just came. I'm sure the cultural shock alone, you probably will find it very difficult to survive.
Sure.
But by coming and engaging with people, interacting with people, I can see that you are somebody who knows the system very well. That gives you some grounding, and so as you come once or twice, then you begin to see what is possible, what is not possible, what the difficulties are, what the challenges are, and then when you're coming with a strategy, so that will also be another advice.
Okay.
And sometimes when people pack bag and baggage and just come, they've been away for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and they come, and that sometimes it works, but again, you also have to be encouraged by other people who have come and they've been able to make it. A famous example is Patrick Ewua of Ashesi University.
Yes.
He left Microsoft and all that and came. But again, sharing of experiences, even before coming, thank God we have the internet, people like Patrick Ewua and other people who are in the diaspora, you can form a network and chat with them and let them share their experiences, But what I finally want to say is that nothing good comes easy.
Right.
So you shouldn't expect that, once you're coming from the diaspora and you come, everything will be easy. Even those of us here, to get anything good going, you need to go through a struggle. And it's the same even over there too. You need to sacrifice, you need to pay the price, you need to work hard, you need to be focused, you need to, forego short-term pleasures to be able to fulfill long-term aspirations. So the same principles apply. And I keep saying, and when I came to the conference the last time, I said, Africa is a land of opportunities. For every green, field that I see, for every untarred road, every waste being disposed indiscriminately, that's potential business. That's an opportunity.
Now, that's what really got me when you came and you said, I think you mentioned 10 different problems, in Africa that were opportunities.
Yes. Every problem is an opportunity. Back in the developed world, they've developed and they are still developing.
Right.
But they've almost reached their saturation points. Here, we have so many problems. And the principle in business and in creativity is that for every problem, sometimes we are looking for somebody to solve it. And once you solve it, it becomes a business. Right. So the opportunities are there. But It doesn't come easy. There are genuine challenges. I will not deceive you. You know, even we here, sometimes we have to fight with ourselves and our system and colleagues and everything to get things going. But it is our country. In the same way people toiled to build their countries, we must also fight and build our own country. Nobody will do it for us.
So do you encourage more like privatization, like private sector?
Oh, that's the way to go. Look around you today. How many almost every business you see is privately owned. Look at the number of people who are employed. Look at the number of people who are working in various. So globally, I think that the private sector, is the key. China tells that they are state enterprises and all that, but all the principles they apply are strictly private sector, strategies. It's just a shadow, but they are purely capitalist, private sector, business-driven, entities. So,
so we shouldn't look. People always say, "Oh, government this, government that." So we shouldn't look at the government to solve all our problems. I always say that too.
Yeah,
it's not the government.
It's a very frightening psychological challenge that we have to deal with. Where there's an over dependence on government. So people finish school and yes, did I get calls and text messages, and I can show you some off record. You'll be amazed. He says, "Get me a job." Wow. Get me a job, minister, get me a job. And sometimes, just to help them to think, and I ask you, "Which job?" He said, "Any job." Then I ask you, then I'll call my secretary or my assistant. I said, "Do you know any company called Any Job Limited?" Just to bring to their mind that there is no company called Any Job. Yeah. But again, you don't blame them. That is their mindset, that somehow a minister maybe has jobs listed in his drawer, and so when you come to the minister, you can just pull his drawer and offer you a job. So these are all things that we need to work on. Our educational system, we need to train people in a manner that when they come out of school, they don't look to government to just give them a job. If they find a job in government, fine, but they should be able to do things on themselves. These are all things that we are working on gradually, and eventually we'll get there.
I believe so too. I think the new generation of Ghanaians will really help the country.
Yes. Our president is very progressive. He's forward thinking. We've had challenges, I'm sure you are going to talk about energy and doom so.
That's all we keep hearing.
It's a real problem. We can't run away from it because it affects everybody, domestically, business, small businesses. But the truth of the matter is that this is something that should have been dealt with on a gradual basis over the past 30 or so years. Okay. When Nkrumah built the Akosombo Dam, the capacity of the dam, we're not even using up to 70%. Okay. And now, after a while, our population exceeded the demand, exceeded the supply, and so we had more demand for energy. Again, you look at the kind of buildings we have now. You look at one high-rise with air conditions and all those things. So again, more demand. You have more factories. Now, over that period, we were not adding onto the stock of energy we had.
Okay.
So the demand kept going, but we were still relying on Akosombo until we started doing some thermal plants, but still demand outstripped supply. Because at any given time, the way the power system is, you must always have a reserve margin. Okay. So if we produce, let's say, 2,000 megawatts of power, you don't have 2,000 megawatts. Effectively, you have maybe 1,600 or 1,400 or 1,700. There must be a reserve margin in case there's a problem somewhere, then you divert it to that side. So we haven't had reserves. So we came into a situation, and every 7 years, due to natural weather conditions, the Akosombo Dam dries up. It is now. It happens every 7 years. Okay. And so that also is something that is cyclical. And that is why we are now doing a lot of thermal plants. Fortunately, we found a lot of gas. And we have the gas processing plant at Atrabo, which is going to feed into all the new thermal plants that we are building. So, yes, it's been a problem, but when the president says he's going to fix it once and for all, he means it.
People think it's a joke, but...
Well, I mean, I don't know if you listen to news today. Some of the thermal units have started arriving. The one from Turkey is setting sail today.
Okay.
And so people will begin to see tangible. We can't joke with, such a sensitive issue as energy. But the truth of the matter is that, yes, it's our government, but the problem preceded us.
Before that,
Like I said, it's been like a 10, 20, 30 year deficit. And all the challenges coalesced at the same time. You had the West African gas pipeline had a problem, and then the Akosombo Dam went down, and then you had the thermal plants also going down, and then so it was a combination of problems, all because we did not have enough capacity. But looking at the things that we've put in place, we are assuring Ghanaians that in the next 2-3 years we're going to have enough local demand, and there will be excess which we can even export to our neighboring countries.
I think once we fix the power situation, that will encourage more people to come.
It will be fixed, absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, I'm not an engineer, I don't have an engineering background, but you came to Canada, you noticed we don't have lights problem. But it's not because we have a lot of dams or anything like that. How come over there we're able to...
Oh, but you do have, you have a huge dam.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
But we don't rely on just dam.
What's the name of the place? I was there where a lot of tourists go.
Which part of Canada? It's not in Ontario.
No. Oh, this popular dam.
I know Hoover Dam.
No,
that's not
it's a huge dam. When you are there, it overlooks the U.S. You can see one of the states.
Oh, like the Niagara?
Niagara.
Oh, okay.
Niagara. It's huge. That the quantum of energy it generates. And then you also have, I think you have nuclear, isn't it?
Yes.
Nuclear. We haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay.
But whatever it is, we have identified the problem. Okay? And we are solving it. I mean, if you want to go into the history and politics of it, come in Nkrumah, build the Akosombo Dam, had the plans, everything ready to build the Bui Dam, and he was overthrown. If you look at his development plan, if he had been allowed to continue, I'm sure we wouldn't have been in this situation. So there are historical antecedents to all these things, but those are just historical lessons. The important thing is that you want to solve the problem, and we are dealing with the problem as it is.
So in the next 4 or 5 years, we should expect
4 or 5, yes, even 2 years, because we have the Asogli plant, which is being converted into a gas plant, and they're expanding it. That's going to give us some. With these things, you want to have the figures in front of you before you mention them. But I'm talking about 300 to 400 extra megawatts of power. We have Tico, Takrady. We have Boom. All these are all coming on stream towards the end of the year, towards the end of next year. But in the interim, we are bringing those emergency power badges to augment the shortfall. So we are confident that
very, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, well, that was the end of my interview. I'm very happy to speak with you on these topics. Hopefully we'll see you in Canada again so that you can come talk to the diaspora too. More about these things.
I want to come to Niagara
Falls. We'll invite you for March.
Okay, we'll see.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. Take care.